my friend. Welcome back to another episode here on the Fit Father Project podcast. This is your host, Dr. Anthony Balduzzi, founder here at the FFP. And in today's episode, we are joined by one of our very own Fit Father Project members, Matt Yoxt. Matt is 50 years young, and he used our program to lose 50 pounds just after his 50th birthday. And what I really love about Matt's story is, like many of these powerful transformation stories, Matt's journey was far more than just physical. For Matt, it was really about reconnecting with his ability to focus, to have discipline, and to become self-excellent, to have a goal and to really nail it and follow through. And Matt did follow through, and he used our Fit Father program to create a sustainable structure with his nutrition, with his exercise, and with his mindset to really do hard things to accomplish an amazing goal and dramatically improve his health. So if you're someone who's starting out and you feel like you've tried and failed many times, you've been on this roller coaster, then you're absolutely going to love Matt's story, because that's kind of the flow that he was in for many years. And then he joins this program. He starts to realign and reconnect with his deeper reasons for getting healthy and uses our methods to really create an incredible transformation. So I think you're really going to enjoy Matt's story. Matt uses Fit Father 30X program series. He used our core program phase 1, and he's used phase 2 and phase 3. So he's made this 50-pound transformation in under 6 months. And he shares a lot of wisdom throughout here, especially for guys who are starting out and need to build some momentum, but also a lot of wisdom about what it takes to actually sustain your results and really just walk this path of losing weight and really improving yourself, mind, body, spirit. So without further ado, let's get into today's conversation with Fit Father, Matt Yoxt. All right, Matt, welcome officially to the Fit Father Project podcast, my friend. I'm really grateful to have you here. And to kick this off, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to all the guys listening here, your name, your age, where you're from, and anything you'd like to share about what you do for work and the rest of your family.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to be part of this. I've been listening and watching watching these podcasts for a long time. So I'm glad to finally get an opportunity to be here, share my story. So my name is Matt Yoxt. I'm currently 50. It's turned 50 last November. So, today about 7 months in. I'm married to my wife, Deidre, 21 years, and have 3 daughters, 3 teenage daughters. So 19, 17, 14. Usually anytime I say that to people, it usually is a long pause where they're like, boy, you have your hands full. I work in technology. So I work as a VP of product management for a software company. Currently I work for a company that's full-time remote. So I'm actually in my home office full-time, which has been a bit of a challenge. We all kind of got used to that over the last several years. I found it to be a bit of a challenge, and then I've really started to embrace it, and would love to talk a little bit about it, because frankly, it's actually really helped me as part of this transformation, I guess I would say.
Nice. Well, it's beautiful to have you here. And I do want to get into all of that. I want to get into the kind of practical and sustainable health routine that you've developed through this program, how that interfaces with your life and raising your daughters, et cetera. But I want to kind of start off with where you were at before you got serious with this program. Like in the years when you're having kids, you're working in technology, like where was your health kind of at before you got into Fit Father Project and other fitness methods?
Yeah, great question. So I think I'm a little bit unique in, or maybe not, maybe kind of the common story that a lot of the Fit Fathers before me have had. So I was never extremely overweight. Frankly, if you were to ask someone, and I've had this conversation a lot of times, when they're like, "Wow, you've really lost quite a bit of weight. I never saw you as being overweight." I never was really significantly overweight, but I always had that extra 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 pounds that I was carrying around. So I was never an athlete in high school, right? Growing up as a kid, I always played sports and all that sort of thing. So I basically had like these peaks and valleys. And again, real common story, I think, that many men have shared is I would get real serious for a short period of time. And so I've actually was running long distance. I actually trained for and ran multiple marathons. So during that time frame, it was really good, right? Because it was easy to keep the weight off and drop the weight down because you were running long miles and that sort of thing. But when it stopped, I stopped the running. I didn't stop the diet. right? So it was like 10 pounds there in that 6-month period and that sort of thing. So I was always really interested in my health, in following a plan. I was really good at following a plan. And I'd often say that to people. I'd be like, look, maybe the plan doesn't even really matter as long as you have something to follow and you do it day after day after day. And so I followed a lot of different plans, right? You name it. And I'm like, okay, my weight's starting to creep up. I'm really not feeling all that well. I need to drop 25 pounds or I need to drop 30 pounds. So it'd be like, well, let me try this one, right? Keto or any of the other popular ones out there. I tried a lot of different ones and I generally would have decent success. I stayed pretty disciplined. I would document out my plan. I would do my exercise, follow the plan. And then, life happens, right? You have 3 children, you have a busy job, you travel for work, holidays come up, and football season comes up. So you're sitting around having too many adult beverages and eating too much, and all of a sudden you kind of look back and you're like, wow, I'm going to have to buy new clothes again because they don't fit. So I would really say over the last 30 years it's kind of been this roller coaster, up and down, up and down. I feel like I learned a lot, but what I didn't really have and what I think I was really missing was the discipline to stick with it more than 2, 3, or 4 months. And and so I think through this journey and then through something I added a little bit later into my plan with 75 Hard was really around building self-confidence and discipline that I can do something, stick with it, and make it sustainable.
I'm curious on that question of sustainability. How much of it do you feel like is a mindset and discipline, like just getting your mindset really right? And how much of it is it that the plan is built to be sustainable kind of from the beginning? And I'm asking because obviously there's a component of both. And we try to design the Fit Father, all the methodologies, particularly nutrition, to make it sustainable. How did that kind of like interface with your life? Is it mindset? Is it the fact that our program is more sustainable than others? Is it a mix of both? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both, right? Let's not sugarcoat it, right? If you're overweight, and in my case, I lost over 50 pounds. If you're over 50 pounds overweight, you're going to have to make some change and it's going to be hard. You're going to have some discipline, whether it's, having too many beers by the pool, whether it's having that late night snack. My case, I'm absolutely an ice cream addict. So I've always would go for the ice cream. That was my go-to, especially late at night. So as far as the sustainability, again, I think that viewing it as this is just what I do moving forward versus, okay, I can manage this for a few months, this diet, because it's going to bring my weight down. I'm going to be happy. And then I can go back to kind of normal, right? Well, this is the new normal. And I think why I really enjoyed the Fit Father, meal plan, is because it's just simple, right? For me, it's absolutely something I can do super easy. So the meal plan is just so straightforward. It's, everybody has, some variation, but for me, it is I call it superfood smoothie for breakfast. So the shake for breakfast. I do most days manwich, right? So the sandwich was eco bread sandwich. And then I'll do a snack, right, during the middle of the day. And that might be a small handful of almonds, half an apple or like a protein bar, something like that. And then the perfect plate, right? I love vegetables. So that part was easy. So I love vegetables. There's the time it takes to make it. So I find myself craving those things, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like, oh, I need to eat another salad and I'm not looking forward to it all. And I'll joke, right? Like I can't wait to get home from my workout in the morning because I get to have the shake, or, it's 11 o'clock. I'm on a call and I'm like kind of starting to get hungry. And I'm like, wow, I'm excited to like go make a turkey sandwich. So, I think the choices and, that are in the plan are logical. They make sense. And frankly, they're just easy. For me, they're just easy to do.
Yeah, for sure. Easy and tasty will win over the long haul. And you still have variety, it sounds like, for dinner, right? I mean, for your perfect plates and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so that part I think is sustainable. The discipline, right, comes into saying no. So, all three of my daughters are in sports, so they all play volleyball. So we're a pretty tall family. And so they all play volleyball, and so they're in really good shape. They spend a lot of time in fitness, and they all have a sweet tooth. And so there's very few days where there's not some brownies out, or they come back from a 3-hour practice, they're having ice cream or something like that. Of course, that those things are still things that I want. But I have the discipline now to say, no, I'm not going to do it. Right. And I feel like there's this kind of phase that we all go through, like the first several weeks, maybe first several months, even. It's like, it's really, really hard. And then when you really start to make and see the progress, like, okay, my pants aren't fitting anymore. They're too loose. Or people are making comments, right? You call them NSVs, non-scale victories, right? You're starting to get comments from other people. Like, then it starts to reinforce, like, hey, this is really working. And, but up until that time frame where it doesn't feel like you're making progress, or I've seen people post in the group, they get frustrated because, they sacrificed, they followed some discipline, they did the workouts, they followed the meal plan, and then they weighed in the morning, they were up 1.5 pounds, and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to just give up, right? We all have that. Kind of the old veterans on the Facebook group are like, it's a marathon, it's not a race, it's not a sprint. You'll kind of go up and down, but that mental hurdle is tough to get over sometimes.
Yeah. And I think what you highlighted is very true. To almost think of it as there's distinct phases of this journey. Like the early phase needs a little more protection because it is harder and you're really starting to get that positive momentum building up. And the results eventually start to reinforce those good habits and behaviors with whether it's on the scale weight loss or the non-scale victories and other good things that you're seeing along the way. And how long did it take you to lose those 50 pounds? Roughly speaking.
Yeah, so I started at the beginning of the year. I guess just a little bit of background. So I was turning 50 in November. So in about the summer, so around June, I'm like, okay, I want to be in the best shape of my life when I turn 50. Mm-hmm. And I actually went back and looked at my mission statement, and I put my mission statement together on June 15th. And it was really well done and all of this. And, I didn't follow through on it. I didn't follow through on the plan. Life got in the way. I got busy. I was in a different job where I was, really kind of too busy and kind of getting a little depressed in that role. And it was impacting me across the board. So I said, I'm going to be in the best shape of my life when I turn 50 at the beginning of November. Didn't happen. So then I kind of took that time to go, okay, I'm now 50, so I need to get really serious. And so I started to kind of re-examine the mission statement. And then I went back and I really kind of went through the holidays and didn't do it. So now I'm like, okay, it's the beginning of the year. I'll tell people, like, don't wait for a special occasion. If you need to make a change and you want to make a change, don't do it tomorrow. I'm going to start my diet on Monday and then party the weekend away or whatever it might be. When you make a decision, like, start right away. But I didn't do that. I said, beginning of the year, that's a good way to do it. So started in January. I was 232. I'm about 6'3", so kind of built a little bit lanky, but still had that extra weight. I would say the first, I lost about 10 pounds in phase 1, so the first 30 days. And then the next phase 2, I lost probably about another 10 pounds. So I was seeing progress, the non-scale victories, all that sort of stuff. And then when I got to phase 3, that's when I really, I think, I would say kind of turbocharged. And I was still a little bit over 200 pounds and I lost like 30 pounds in phase 3. I'm not quite done, have a week and a half of phase 3. So I still have 3 peak 11 workouts to do, which each time I do it, I curse you, but I love it in a good way. So essentially about 5 months for those 50 pounds.
Nice. And I think it's important for guys to hear that, sometimes progress is faster than others in certain periods. And oftentimes it's due to the amount of effort you're able to put in. And it doesn't necessarily every month doesn't have to always be the same. It's about continuing to build that forward momentum. And I want to ask you, what was your original mission statement that you connected with? And what were some of those reasons that motivated you, if you're open and willing to share some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had to go back. So I had this mission statement in my head. So I told you I wrote a mission statement back of June and then didn't really follow through on the program. I kind of dabbled with it a bit. And then, beginning of the year, I said, okay, this is it. I didn't actually really re-anchor to my mission statement by reviewing it and documenting it. I already had it in my head. So the things that really drove me is I wanted, first and foremost, I felt like I had to be happy with who I was. So I wanted to build my self-esteem, my self-confidence. And in order to be the best dad, the best husband, the best, role model to others, I had to kind of take care of myself first. So my mission statement was really around building that self-esteem, that self-discipline, that kind of fortitude to basically teach myself I can do hard things. I can set a goal. I can follow through on it, and I can achieve that goal. Because again, like many of us, we set a goal and we're like, we're going to lose 30 pounds. And then it gets hard and then it just kind of fades away. And I was no different than anybody else that has had that happen 3, 4, 5, 15 times over the last 30 years. So this was like, look, if I'm truly going to be the best, like I said, the best husband, the best dad, the best person that I can be, I got to work on myself first. So in order to do that, wasn't just, losing the weight. It was, and I've said it a few times, it was discipline. It was focus on what I'm doing. So it was wasting time, right? I don't waste time. I treat every day as a new opportunity to do better than I did yesterday. So a big part of it was the fitness journey. It was the health journey. But it was really the self-development and self-improvement journey that was on.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a totally relatable story that many guys have shared. It's like, this is a personal development, self-development, alignment journey that just so happens to take place on the canvas of the body. Right. And getting the body back in shape. And as you lose the weight, have you noticed any shifts to energy, mindset, ability to stay more disciplined, or any of the internal experiences you've had, even just like feelings of well-being?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think just the energy itself, having more energy, being able to stay up later. I still go to bed early because I get up so early, and the girls make fun of me for that. But feeling like I have energy to take on, any challenge in front of me, whether that's, I want to start my own business someday. So nice. Starting, research and reading and development into that. Those days of kind of sitting around and watching TV, watching movies, watching sports, I did a lot of that. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but I was spending way too much time because I frankly just didn't have that energy. Mm-hmm. An interesting thing, and many of the dads that come on board will talk about, they kind of got a wake up call when they went to the doctor. So, unfortunately, I don't have like this grand story of going to the doctor and they're like, look, you need to change your ways, buddy, or you're in real trouble. So I went for my 50th birthday and he goes, yeah, you could lose some weight. And, you probably, your numbers are a little bit higher than I'd like, but they're okay. And I was kind of expecting and kind of wanted him to say, hey, get in gear here and fix these things. But he didn't do that. And that was kind of that mindset shift I talked about. Like, I didn't need an external factor telling me, hey, you're overweight, fix it. It wasn't my family telling me, that wasn't the doctor. It was really me that had to do that. And that realization really kind of came on strong after I had my 50-year birthday kind of checkup, and then to the end of the year.
Nice. All right. I want to kind of go back to something you mentioned before. And I also, you wrote this before coming on the podcast and shared this with me, is that, you got into a point with your previous job, not the one you have now, but the previous job, where it was affecting your mental health and well-being. And my hunch is that probably made it so that you were more likely to do things like eat ice cream as stress relief and like turn the TV late at night. How has like the environment of your work affected, in the changes that have happened there, been a contributor to positive, health momentum, or in the past perhaps negative health momentum? I'd like to like explore that connection between maybe feeling depressed or stressed at work and how you felt like you were coping with that, perhaps with food. And I'm guessing, but that may or may not be the case. And then the changes now that you kind of settled into this new groove with the new job and the potentially starting a new business. You know what I'm asking? I'd love for you to speak to that.
Yeah, I think sometimes you don't have you don't have the ability to really see how bad it's getting or how challenging it was for you until you have some time to kind of look back at that. So I just knew that with the pandemic and working from home, which was completely different for all of us, or many of us anyway, it was a challenge. And frankly, I was working way too much. And it was one of those roles, in the software world, you're never, ever done, right? There's always another feature that somebody wants. There's always something to fix. And I kind of had a little bit of that obsessive, that obsessive compulsive, like, hey, we've got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. Working with a big team, trying to coach up all of the people to help improve them. And what I was finding was I was working way too many hours. And it wasn't something that I loved. And so I think when I would come out of that, I told you I work, in the lower level of the house or the basement of the house, and I would come upstairs and I was grouchy. I was cranky. I'm like, leave me be. I wasn't being the best person, for my family. And then you're, it's 9-10 o'clock at night and you're like, okay, looking forward to tomorrow. It wasn't really something to look forward to. It was like, oh, it's another really long, stressful day. So for sure, whether it was, again, my go-to of eating ice cream or, just eating too much, overeating, or having a few, cocktails, which then kind of caused a problem, because then the next day, the older you get, that impacts you even more. So the next day, kind of wake up groggy and not feeling 100%. So I took an opportunity last summer, left the place where I'd been for a really long time, and have a new opportunity. And I benefited from having a manager who really believed in, work-life balance, if you want to call it that. But I also went into it to say, if I'm going somewhere else, I'm looking for a place. I'm going to approach it differently. I'm not going to pour, everything I have into the job. It's important, and I will give 100% when I'm on the clock, if you want to think of it that way. But I want to focus on those other areas, and those other areas are spending more time with my family, with friends, again, being a better husband and dad, spending time on me, so doing the fitness, doing the diet. And so, as I started to kind of have some of that stress lift off my shoulders, I didn't feel the urge to, house a bag of tortilla chips at night before going to bed or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you shared about I've been using the terms recently, the positive and negative momentum, particularly that negative momentum, right? You have the chips to ice cream late at night or a couple drinks, and then you're groggy or bloated the next day. And that simple feeling early in the day makes it more likely that you continue on. And that snowballs into something that can feel like it gets out of control. At the flip side, what you've now established is just a life that seems a lot more balanced, and you have anchors early in the day with the super fuel shake and superfood shake in the morning to get you going, and now you're playing in this positive momentum game and starting to get it going. And now you've added additional things like 75 hard to further strengthen your focus and dedication to the path. So it's like, wow. I mean, talk about a shift in the energies in your life. I mean, that's pretty profound in a pretty short amount of time, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. I've again, I talked about, like my numbers and that sort of thing. My goal is to move to OSM, because I've leaned down quite a bit. Some might say too lean. I do need to get, I'd like to get another body fat percentage measurement. But like I said, I have another week and a half of the last month of phase 3, and I'm going to switch over there. I also will be getting a reading there pretty soon. A couple of other things along the way that I changed. So first of all, I was a diet soda addict, like a lot of people, for years, right? 30 years. Because I never wanted to drink calories, right? So I never drank a big glass of chocolate milk or regular soda or whatever it might be. And I'm like, oh, it must be okay because there's no calories, right? Well, of course, we all know now that diet soda isn't necessarily great because of the artificial sweeteners. So I've completely kicked that habit. Nice. And that was important. I think, I wasn't on any medication, but one thing that I did, I had really bad, heartburn, and I had that for many years. Right. And just kind of, took a tablet every morning, and that sort of stuff. And it kind of went away. Same sort of thing. I switched up my diet, got rid of the soda. I don't know exactly what the reason was, but I don't need it, right? And haven't been on it for months and months. So
nice.
Yeah, totally awesome. So I did just want to kind of mention just quickly, for those that are interested, some of you may have already heard Chris Vincent's podcast about 75 hard, and this isn't an advertisement for it per se. Go check it out on your own time if you're interested. But if my story resonates a little bit with you, like you've struggled with self-esteem and confidence and fortitude to finish things, this is a program that absolutely, I think, helps teach that. I've really embraced it. Chris Vincent absolutely really embraced it. We kind of chat and challenge each other a little bit about that. So I would check out that program. I really enjoy it. And
I'll do a drop of that. That's a program designed by a guy named Andy Frisella. And it's basically helping you hit a couple things every single day. You drink a gallon of water a day. I think you read a motivational book for at least 10 minutes. You do 2 workouts a day, 10 pages. You do 2 workouts a day. They have to be at least 45 minutes. And I think no junk food, basically, right? Or is it like there's maybe a nutrition?
Yeah, that last one's probably the most challenging one for me, which is follow a diet, right? It's not a very specified diet. I'm following the Fit Father plan, so that's easy, right? Because I already have that plan. But the biggest thing about it, and again, I'm not going to say this is for everybody. It's absolutely zero compromise or zero cheat, and no alcohol. So when I talk about it, a lot of guys will be like, there's no way I'm going to do that. And again, when Andy talks about the plan, he's like, look, the whole thing is about discipline, is about zero compromise. So, even grabbing, 3 or 4 peanut M&Ms, like that's cheating, and don't cheat on it. So I don't, right? I have no alcohol, no thing outside of, what's on the FFP meal plan and diet, essentially.
Nice. Well, I mean, I think again, what you shared is like, yeah, for sure. But for you came into this knowing that your core thing of your mission statement was to gain back this sense of self-excellence, the ability to execute on something, and to really be able to strengthen your focus and follow through. So if that's an area where any guy feels like they're struggling, then applying basically FFP plan in the context of this hyper-focused 75-day challenge could be a really valuable thing. And I know there's several guys now in our groups doing that. So I'm glad you brought that up into attention. And I have a related question on this note, and that is, how have our workouts changed you? like physically, perhaps I'd like to maybe talk about maybe your first Apex now to like what you're able to do now with your body. But also how has it changed your mindset as well? Because I believe our workouts very much like 75 hard are as much mentally sharpening you as much as they are physically.
Yeah. So one thing I didn't mention yet is I was actually exercising at least 5 or 6 days a week. Even during those time periods where I was up and down in weight and all that sort of stuff, I did follow a plan, with the exception of kind of when the gyms closed for a bit and that sort of thing. So I'm a morning guy. I'm up at 5, working out, and have a really good group. I actually go to a gym, and it's a mile from my house, so it's super easy. And I have a really good support system in gym. And this is one thing I'll stress. I know a lot of the guys work out in their basement or in their garage or something like that by themselves. And that accountability from your support group, to me, is absolutely completely, it's one of the most important things. And if you don't have that because you're not going to gym, you're working out at home or whatever it might be, the Facebook group is really good, and we can talk about that. So I did the first Apex 10. I actually did the Apex 10 for a while independently when one of my first tries of on the program. And I was able to get through it, right? I wasn't great at the push-ups when you start to get to the higher numbers. Renegade rows were my challenge, like most of the guys, mostly because I'd had shoulder surgery. It was a skiing injury, dislocated, tore my labrum, the whole 9 yards. So that was a little bit challenging for me in my hands, right? A lot of people complain about your hands. So I would actually do the renegade rows with my hand on the ground instead of on the weights, on the dumbbells, just because they were hurting my hands too much. So fast forward into, some of the additional phases and that sort of thing. I always looked forward to the workouts, but it was like, it wasn't super exciting. And I don't know when it was. I think it was probably phase 2, maybe at the beginning of phase 3, where like literally this switch kind of flipped in my mind. And I was like, and it was a challenge against myself. Now, each time I was like, how can I improve? Can I improve my time, still keeping form? Can I improve the weights? That sort of thing. And I don't know, at some point it just happened, like, hey, renegade rows aren't particularly all that difficult, and I was doing, 10 or 15 pounds in Apex 10. And, and Chris Vincent and I were, kind of competing a little bit, via the group. Like now I'm doing, 4 sets of 10 with 50s, right? Nice. which is insane, comparatively to where I was going. So I just saw it as a challenge. And I don't know, I think I probably said it. I think doing hard things and being successful at hard things really helps build that confidence. So I kind of doing hard things, everything I do. So, if I'm walking to the car, my car is that way, I might find myself doing a circle around it just to do a few extra steps, as an example.
What an amazing shift in mindset. I mean, yeah. I think that's also a mindset that keeps you young too. I think oftentimes like an older mindset, right, is one where you lose ability. And this is a mindset where you're constantly trying to stretch your abilities in all facets, big and small. And exercise certainly does that. And I'm curious if you would say now that you're in some of the best shape of your life. You had that goal when you were 50. I mean, I've seen your pictures. You look fantastic. And, like, I hope that you're close to that goal, whether or not you are.
Well, I think I have to imagine that I am, right. It's hard to really say, like, I've run marathons, right. And I was in a different kind of shape, where I was, more of a cardio sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely. I think I'm in the best shape of my life. I feel like I have a long way to go. I've got, like I said, I like these really hard challenges. So I'm kind of getting back into running a bit. I forget exactly what it's called. David Goggins, who many of the group really like, as like the 4x8x48, which is
the
basically you run 4
4x48,
miles every 4 hours for 48 hours straight. I'm not ready for that yet, but those are the sort of things I want to do. Where I can, help raise awareness and raise funds and do some of the things that support these things. But one thing I just wanted to point out, I kind of mentioned, was the Facebook accountability group. I think I really do feel like there's like that group is key. Hopefully many of you will see me on there, even if it's just saying, "Way to go, you've got this." I mean, people did that to me when I would post and kind of, was indecisive or not sure if I was going to make it. I kind of feel like these guys are kind of rock stars in my life, Shane Dixon, Chris Pleasant, and, James Riley, Hugo, Barry. I probably won't name them all. Ron, Josiah Gibb was somebody he and I were all about the same time. Roberto, Jesse Lopez, right? But more importantly, I saw some of these guys, who were like, I'm never going to be able to do that. Like, seeing these big transformations, or you go to the web page and you see these big transformations, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to ever do that. I mean, I was afraid to take pictures, like many of us. So I was going to join the transformation challenge, and I took a picture with, a piece of paper with the date, and I never even looked at it for like 3 months, and the date was backwards, and it wouldn't, like, you couldn't even read it. And I'm like, because I was afraid to look at it. Yeah. So seeing and getting that encouragement from that group, because all of those guys have been there, right? They know the challenges. You have to kind of take a little bit of your pride sometimes and say, look, I screwed up this weekend, and kind of went back and probably the one real big thing that I think I've learned as part of the accountability is, okay, I screwed up on Friday, evening. The old Matt would have been like, oh, I got to get on track. I'll get on track on Monday. And then the weekend was a free for all. Right. Mm-hmm. And part of your teaching, is like, hey, admit your mistake. And again, don't start 2 days from now. Don't start next week. You start the next day and just get back on track. So I think that's one of the key takeaways I've had as well from this. And the guys in the group are really, really good at that. I forgot to mention Cleve Hartwick. He's our resident rocker with the heavy metal. Again, he's on a very similar time frame as me. I enjoy seeing these posts as well.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I mean, I want to thank you too on behalf of the group for giving that encouragement, for giving and receiving. I think that's one of my favorite parts about the group. It's one of those special places where this just generative cycle of giving and receiving and giving and receiving. And in that fuel, more guys get to transform, and then it propagates itself. So I know you've been a comment of much encouragement for so many of the guys. And I think it also is important to have guys starting around similar to your time, like you did too, because these are guys you're really walking shoulder by shoulder with and finding deep encouragement. And I know this conversation, among many things, is going to provide that kind of encouragement to more men. So that's why I'm really grateful you came on. A couple final questions. One is, sure. Have your daughters or your wife said anything about your transformation? What's the experience been like home if they've seen you go through what I consider in 5 months, like a pretty dramatic shift in many different things?
Yeah, I think they definitely comment, right? Well, first of all, my wife has been great, because there is a time commitment involved with additional workouts, getting up early. I get up early, so I go to bed early, and she kind of helps out, extra, which I absolutely appreciate. So very, very supportive. And the girls have been very, very supportive. They often talk about the fit father. My youngest daughter's always telling all of her friends about my dad's manwiches, that he eats, nice. And I'll have their friends run up and say, "Hey, can you make me a manwich?" And that sort of
That's
thing.
Great.
So they've been very supportive. I think my goal is to lead by example. As much as I can. And, as anybody with teenagers know, sometimes you could try talking to them and they don't listen. It goes in one ear out the other. It really doesn't. But what they see is what's going to be imprinted. my dad never worked out. I don't remember my dad ever working a day in his life, and he was in decent shape, right? That it just wasn't a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I wanna impress on them and others around me that, in order to be healthy and live a long, productive life, those are things that you need to do. So trying to lead by example.
You certainly are. You're definitely walking the walk, my friend. Yeah. And my final question for you is more the common close here, and I think it's really great. The piece of advice that you would give to guys right now who maybe were where you were at for years of like starting and stopping and not being able to really fully commit and build that momentum. And maybe even guys that are in the early phase here, they've tried some of the Fit Father workouts, Apex, maybe something even on YouTube. They haven't joined the program yet. What would you say to a man who's still trying to build that momentum and get committed and to step on this path? Early days, what advice do you have?
Yeah, I mean, my advice is don't turn it into something bigger than it is. The way that I look at it, and the way I tried to look at it, was you win the day, win each day. So instead of thinking, oh, I'm going to learn, I mean, it's good to have the mission statement saying I'm going to lose 20 pounds in the first 30 days and things like that. So I think that part of it is important, but don't get discouraged. Follow the plan every day. And you'll see in my comments, I say that all the time to newer people. This plan works. Follow the plan, win each day, or at the very least, right? Win 5 out of 7 days, and then win 3 or 4 out of the 4 weeks in a month, and you win the month. And pretty soon you're winning the year. So that's my recommendation. I'm not anything special. I just finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired and said, I'm going to make a change. I had the plan in front of me, from Fit Father Project, and just followed it. And like I said, every single day said, okay, how can I be a little bit better than yesterday? And I'm going to keep improving. And then over time, when you start looking back, wow, you've started to make those big changes and have those NSVs. So that's my recommendation. Again, it's similar to a lot of the other guys that have been through the project. Post in the group. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling disappointed, if you're feeling discouraged, post in the group, and hopefully, Warner or somebody, Jesse, one of the real inspirations will come in there and give you a word of inspiration like they did to me. And that's all that it takes, for another great week. So that's my recommendation.
Matt, another perfectly said, I would say. There's so many one-liners of wisdom in here. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey authentically. I'm super excited for you to finish phase 3. I mean, that'll be a heck of an accomplishment of 6 weeks of dedicated, 6 weeks of dedicated focused workouts and effort, and then checking your body fat. And I wish you luck in OSM too. I think you're going to enjoy that as a very different type of challenge in the future. And just congratulations. Thanks for being a fit father. And I'm really excited to get this convo out. And I know it's going to help inspire a lot more people.
Well, thank you. I can't say enough about the project, all of the people involved, yourself, Ben, Kat, Craig, who recently posted that, he kind of was kind of getting back into the program himself. So I can't say enough about the program. So thank you so much for putting it out there. It's exactly what men, like myself, need. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate you.